See, I got my glasses on, so now that means it's experiment time. Okay, so I know this is gonna work. Obviously at this point, I'm actually recording this after I've done it. So I'm not gonna say if it works or whatever, but I am gonna say that this entire video was just to see if it worked, okay? It was just simply an experiment, all right? To see if you could put a light underneath paint, all right? This is a list of things that I feel are gonna be all up in the comments, okay? So y'all excuse me for a second while I have to go over the obvious. There's always gonna be the people that take these things that should go unsaid and they're just gonna blow it up and they're gonna sit there and jaw jack in the comments, okay? And tell you all these things that say, yeah, I know that, man. You know, this was, once again, something that was kind of hurried through just to get to the end result to see if it was possible. It can be refined later. There's gonna be things in here that are done with the incorrect materials. One, primer. You're probably not gonna rattle can a paint job, okay? If you do, cool, whatever. But most likely if you're going this far with something, you're probably gonna be using, you know, primer out of a spray gun. Also, I didn't really pay a whole bunch of attention to prep. You're gonna see that there's little dips from a grinder and this and that and everything else. And once again, that goes to your body work, okay? That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to make a beautiful piece of flat sheet steel, okay? This isn't going on a bike. When it does go on a bike, I'll do it a lot different. It'll actually look really nice, and I will pay attention to all that. I know that this isn't the way that you paint a motorcycle, okay? I just kind of was doing this alongside a bike that I am painting, and I had white paint that I was painting the base coat with. I was painting the base coat on the bike, was white with pearl over the top of it. I didn't put the pearl in this because it's not necessary and I'm not wasting my pearl. But that's already what I had in my spray gun, and I'm not going and mixing up, you know, a couple grams of paint to spray on a little bitty test panel. Yeah, I know it's not sprayed correctly either. Once again, I'm just spraying over the top of it, roughly in the same way that you would, or the same thickness that you would on a bike or something. Actually a little bit thicker on purpose. I don't know what other colors will do. Black would probably dim it down a little bit. Something like blue would maybe distort the color of the amber light. Maybe, I don't know. Red would maybe do the same thing. I'm not sure. I will figure all that out later. This is just the process of how to do it. Okay, this is what I found and how I did it this time. Now I'll change it here and there with things that I learned along the way, whatever. This is just for that cool factor. Also, I feel like I should probably say that there's a fine line between form and function, and if you're the type person that wants to put turn signals underneath your paint job, more than likely you're not too concerned with people seeing them. So please don't tell me about the total like half lumen loss that you get from putting it under the paint. Okay, you're doing it because it looks cool. You're not doing it because you're one of those people that wears the bright reflective vests and everything. You're doing it just because it looks cool, and that's cool. That's why I decided to make this video. So anyway, now that we got all that out the way, here is the video. All right, y'all, so I'm starting out with building a simple little bucket just to hold the light, and I'm not a machinist, and this is a machining video, so there's not going to be too much of this. This is just to hold the light like a Frenching bucket or something. And all this really has to do is hold whatever light it is that you're doing. This is the finished part. You can see it's just basically a hole with a bigger recess in it so that the light can sit flush. And this is the light that I'm using. You can use anything really. This is a cheap little LED from Amazon. It's pretty bright, and I cut the cord off of it, so off of this one, so that I could put it in while the piece was still in the lathe, so I can make sure my holes and everything were right. I took it and drilled a hole in a piece of sheet metal and then just kind of welded it onto the back. We're going to clean up all that on the top, and this is what I meant by grinder marks. I'm not really paying too much attention here. I'm just trying to get it as flat as I can. Of course, you're going to see that. Here I'm just cutting that piece off. Not really anything special, just making the piece smaller. That was a, I guess, 1x2 piece of sheet metal at first or whatever. And this is just fitting the light in. The light fits and it's flush. It sits, well, it's not flush, it sits under the surface of the sheet metal, which is what you want. Right here I'm just making a little kind of enclosure for whenever I pour the resin in. Just a piece of foam board. I'm going to hot glue it to the metal. I would suggest doing it with something different or finding a better way to do it, because you'll see in a minute, I had some trouble getting that off of the piece whenever I was ready to take it off after the resin had cured. This is just hot gluing it down over the top. You want it to be just proud of the surface of the metal so that you know you have something to sand down and get it flush with the top or whatever it is that you're putting on. And the resin that I'm using is clear. I haven't tried it with any other resin. I don't plan on it. It just makes sense to use clear resin. This is also polyurethane, so in theory the paint that I'm using should bond to it just fine and not have any kind of negative effects on it or anything else like that. And you want to pour it in there with as little bubbles as you can. That's why I kind of put some on the stick and got it around the light at first. And then went ahead and poured it in there. I actually poured mine a little thicker than I intended to. This is the first time I ever really messed with resin like this. Well, this kind of resin. I usually use it for remaking lenses and things for, you know, brake lights and stuff. Sorry for all the lighting videos. This is probably going to be the last one. It just so happens to be something that I'm doing all the time. And something that people are confused about. So I try to help people out, and wiring is one of those things where, you know, getting a little bit of help is always useful. Sorry about my big stupid arm being in the way of that. I'm just kind of cutting the foam board out. This is what I was talking about. I kind of had trouble getting it off of the metal. And I'm just going and knocking it down with the grinder with a 120 grit sanding disc on there. And then I'm going to hit it with well, I don't show it, but I hit it with a 220 grit on the DA. Just cleaning it up with wax and grease remover. And then I'm taping it off with a piece of painter's tape. And you see the little bit around there, that's a little bit of leftover. There was a low spot in the metal, and that's where a little bit of resin got into it. But whenever you do this, I'm not really paying too much attention to it, but you should probably make you a little round template before you actually get to this point so that you can just slap it on there and it'll be a little bit more precise. Now I'm just using some spray can filler primer and just kind of putting on a ton of coats. I really wanted to see how it was going to work, so I put it on a little bit heavier, just kind of knocking it down here with some 1000 grit just to smooth it out. You really want to pay attention around that light and try to get that as flush as you can so that there's no little edge. And now I bet this is where all the painters are yelling at me from behind their computer screens. This is not by any means what you're supposed to do or how heavy you're supposed to put on paint, but I wanted to see, so I was just kind of, you know, experimenting a little bit. And then here's a clear coat, once again incorrectly sprayed. I do not paint like this. I don't paint outside on a wood box. Again, there's a good bit of clear that I put on there. And then here it is working. It works pretty well, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. So if you have any questions, get in the comments, and I'll see y'all in the next video.